Do you have something to say?
Probably nothing worthwhile.
Neither do I, but I do it anyway.
Yeah, it happens. Usually gets me in trouble.
Well, but see, if you say something on my show, it gets me in trouble.
Valid point. Game on.
But I edit, so I can beep you out.
Can I pick the music?
You could, but it doesn't mean I'm going to use it.
Where do I fit into this?
I'm not sure. I was asking you. I was hoping you would have an answer. Because it is your shop, after all.
Good point. I got nothing.
All right. Well, I'm going to go out and take a picture of your son. Hi, kids. I am here at my good friend Scott Armstrong's garage, known as Armstrong Automotive. Hello and welcome to another episode of Eric the Car Guy. I'm Eric the Car Guy. We're at Scott's garage, like I said earlier. And today we're going to talk about changing your own oil in your car. Now there's a few safety precautions you want to consider when you do this. One is that you don't drop a car on your head because that would probably hurt. Do we have jack stands? Yeah, I have jack stands. I have jack stands that I'm going to use to hold this car up when we get it there. You can use ramps. I've seen people use curbs, but I don't necessarily recommend that. Basically what you're going to want to do is you're going to need to get the front of the car up, and you're going to need to get the hood open, so that's where we're going to get started. First thing you want to do is open your hood. Next, you come out, open the hood. It's usually a good idea to have the engine warmed up before you do this, because especially if it's really cold outside, the oil might have a hard time coming out of the pan. So if you run the engine for a good 10 minutes or so before you start this, things under there are going to be kind of toasty, but the oil will run out a lot faster and you won't have to sit there forever waiting for this glob of stuff to come out. I just drove this, so I'm not going to run it at all. Next, we're going to have to jack the car up. I'm going to use this floor jack, and there are a couple of little hooks underneath the front of the car, which I'll show you in a second, that you can actually jack the car up from to get a jack under the lift points on the side. On this one, the hooks are kind of hidden. They're actually up here underneath this shield, but you can jack the front of the car up by these. Next, it's time to put the jack stand under. Now before you actually put yourself underneath a large heavy metal object, you got it on the jack stand, just shake it a little bit. You don't need to try to push it off the jack stand. Just make sure that this thing is secure, because this is a lot of weight. And gravity takes over, or your head gets squished. Life would suck. And I don't want you blaming me for that. Now when you're ready to get under the car and actually start work, you can use what's called a creeper, which is basically a really low to the ground kind of skateboard thing that you can lay on. Or actually I like to use just an old piece of cardboard. And the reason is, if you're laying on a creeper and you're trying to break something loose, sometimes the wheels move you out of the way, and in addition to that, it raises you up off the ground considerably, so you're able to get in under there a lot better and have a lot better leverage if you're just laying on a piece of cardboard. So that's what I use. And recycling is good. Okay, this next part, you have to get up under the car and find the drain plug on the oil pan. Now it's important to find the one on the oil pan and not something else, and it's important to know that you're actually going to let the oil out of the car and not some other fluid that might be vital to something else. On these cars it's nice because these aluminum pans usually have it cast right into the outside of it, and it says oil on the outside of it. If you're not sure, consult the owner's manual. The next thing we need to find is the oil filter. Now in this car, it's sticking out the side over here. It's usually some kind of big cylindrical object screwed to the outside of the engine. When you find it, you may not be able to get it off by hand. You may have to actually get a special tool, an oil filter wrench, in order to get this off the car. They put these in all different kinds of places. They may be easy to get to, like this one is, and they may be a lot more difficult to get to. It really just depends on what type of car you have. You need to also change this when you change the oil. These are some different types of oil filter wrenches. This one is a strap type, probably the most common that's out there. This is a type that actually goes onto the back side of the oil filter itself and fits into a 3/8 drive ratchet, and this will also spin off an oil filter sometimes in tight spaces. Here's another style that actually is adjustable, and the more you turn it, the more it grips down on something, kind of like a pipe wrench. Also, this is driven by a 3/8 ratchet. And there are other types besides this. There's some that look like giant pliers and different things, but these are some of the things that you may have to use in order to get the oil filter off. Now that we know where all the stuff is to get the oil out, we're going to need to have something to put the oil in. Now, I've got one of these tubs that I bought at a local big box store, and it seems to work pretty well, and I like it because it has this upper portion here that allows the oil to go down into the pan, but it doesn't allow it to slosh out. So as you're moving this around, it doesn't go spilling out everywhere. But there are any number of things you can use to catch the oil in. I don't recommend just letting it drip out on your driveway or the parking lot of your apartment complex. I'm sure that you would probably hear bad things about that. So I didn't tell you to do that. I told you to put it in something. Okay, next what we're going to do, I'm going to knock the drain plug loose. And you want to turn it in a counterclockwise direction. Tightening it will be clockwise, loosening it will be counterclockwise. So you want to turn the bolt in a counterclockwise direction. Shouldn't take too much. Next, take your pan, put it underneath where the oil is going to come out. I usually take out this little plastic plug on the end, that way air can escape and not go bubbling out everywhere. But then you can just unscrew the plug and let the oil out. Just gonna let that drain for a while. Next, while this is draining, I'm going to take the oil filter loose. Now, I did the oil change last time, and I know that I'm just gonna be able to twist this and it's gonna come loose. Some oil may come draining out at the same time. Just let it go ahead and drain. It's important to not tighten these filters so tight that you can't do this, but if you need a wrench, you need a wrench. Now that the filter is pretty much drained out, you can take it the rest of the way off. And I just turn it upside down in the pan and let it drain out. Before you install the new filter, you want to take a little bit of oil on your finger and then put it on the outside of the rubber gasket on the oil filter itself before you screw it up onto the car. That will make it so that the filter screws on a lot easier. But something I just thought of, one thing you want to make sure of is when you take the old filter off, you see this metal surface here? That surface should be metal. You shouldn't have any rubber there. In other words, what I have seen is sometimes this rubber gasket, when you take the filter off, will stay stuck up onto the car. If that happens and you screw a new filter onto it, the minute you start up the car, you're going to have a great big mess. So be sure that this up here is free of rubber stuff. Something else I'd like to note here, not all oil filters are this metal canister type. Some oil filters are actually just the paper portion of the filter and mounted in some strange locations. The thing that comes to mind is like a Hyundai V6. The oil filter is actually on top of the engine. Some Mercedes are like that, and some other vehicles. They don't have what would traditionally be referred to as a metal canister type of oil filter. You may have to look around for its location. The best thing to do is consult with your owner's manual and find out where the filter location is so that you can replace it. But I assure you, every engine I've ever come across does have an oil filter. However, its location varies greatly between makes and models. So if you can't find the oil filter and where to get it off the car, just consult your owner's manual and see if that can give you an idea of where to look.